Hello, tile friends. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's having a good week and gearing up to enjoy your weekend. Today we have a flashback to an earlier episode that was aired, I believe, in 2019. The link is in the show notes wherever you're watching or listening to this. If you want to check out the whole thing, that was, I believe, April 24th, 2019, if I'm remembering what I copy and pasted in there. But this was an interview with Dan Hecox, who has since passed, and Dan was a great man. He was one of the kindest, gentlest souls I had the pleasure of meeting in my time working in this industry, and everybody who knew him will say the same thing. And we have 3 clips. We have a short one here to get us started, just so you can kind of get a taste for how Dan spoke and how he really was a kind person, a kind soul to everyone he met. And if you're watching this live, feel free to share your memories of Dan in the comments. It's been, 2 years since he passed, I believe 2 days ago. And I know Jake Schaefer and some of the guys over in Omaha who knew him are doing the 2nd annual golf scramble for Dan this weekend. So if you're in the area, you might want to check that out, get a hold of some good tilers and have a hold Dan's memory and honor by doing something. I'm not sure if he was a golfer. I don't think he mentioned that, but I imagine that's why they're doing that, or just to kind of honor him. Now let me stop talking here and let's let Dan do some talking. This is a good clip here. It's just a 10-second clip to get to understand the kind of person Dan was.
Yes.
I've always wanted to fly. I guess it's a goal of mine.
Keep dreaming, you can get there.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what Steve Rosh says. You know Steve?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good deal.
So there, I just wanted to highlight that. You know, I obviously, I was asking him about his hobbies, and he mentioned a few, and one of them was flying. You know, Dan had his pilot's license, as did Steve Rosh, who's also passed on as well. And, you know, that was just so typical of Dan. You know, keep going, you know, don't dream small, you know, you can get there, he said. And then later in the conversation, we got into his work history. Let's take a look at that. Now, this is going to be nearly a 3-minute clip, but it's definitely worth the watch.
Started in 1990.
Oh, yeah.
At that time, I was a general contractor.
Yeah.
I've been in construction 40 years and setting tile over 20.
Okay.
It wasn't until I was working with my local distributor and taking them in pictures when they asked, why aren't you doing this all the time?
The tile work.
They said, your work is beautiful. You should just be focusing on this.
Okay. Well, that's really good. So you built that reputation there as the go-to tile guy. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's gotten to the point where I haven't advertised in 20 years. I'm just solely word of mouth.
Okay. What obstacles have you overcame over the course of those 20, 30 years?
Probably part of that, just competing against other contractors, bidding against unqualified labor who are bidding it way cheaper than I was. Yeah. And trying to set myself apart as qualified labor, as somebody who specializes in certain things.
So what did you do?
That was where I just went to tile work. Was that maybe where I had a buddy of mine 20 years ago. He mentioned to me, you need to find the one thing that you're really good at.
Okay.
Focus on that and become the best you can be.
Yeah.
And it took me maybe 15 years after he had told me that to realize that, until that my rep at the tile store had said, why aren't you doing this all the time? And then that kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And then it was shortly after that then that I had joined the NTCA.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the NTCA. What are your roles?
At this current time, I'm a state ambassador for Nebraska.
Okay.
And then I'm with the CTEF as an evaluator.
Yep.
And then just recently, we've been talking the last few days, I'm going to be traveling the country 30 plus times doing training sessions, 1 and 2 day training sessions on top of the evaluations.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun coming up. You excited?
Yes, I'm excited.
All right, good.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great to be a part of helping to build qualified labor, train people
Yeah.
to help our industry grow.
And so what does that look like if somebody wants to go through the program?
If they're wanting to go through the CTI program, we have to get signed up for that, and then we're going to be having training classes to train you on taking the CTI test.
Okay.
Then we send you out a study guide, the TCNA handbook, and an ANSI manual.
Okay.
You go through that, you get online, take a 155 question, multiple question test.
Yeah.
And then when we have a test in your local area,
Okay.
we will notify you and get you on that test.
Nice. What's the average time frame here? What are we talking? 6 months?
Overall,
Yeah.
usually it's probably more 3 months from the time we set up a test and then
Okay.
have everybody studied and get them in there for testing.
Okay.
Dan was very passionate about the NTCA and the CTI, and he was encouraging to everybody to get their license, get their, whether you have a license in your city or not, but to also get your certification, your tile installer certification, CTI number, and to pursue industry knowledge. And that's really what Dan was all about early there, in the conversation. Now, Dan was skilled with his hands. He knew how to do a variety of things. But he mentions he had some good advice, and that was to specialize, become a specialist in tile, since that was really what he was very passionate about, as he explains there. And he says that after he did that, things started working out for him a little bit better in business, and people came to know him as that specialist. And I think that's a really good advice for a lot of the artistic type tilers. From what I understood, Dan was not the quickest on the draw with installing tile. In other words, he wasn't in and out, but he was very meticulous. And there's definitely a market for somebody who cares so deeply about their work and is so meticulous that I think it's beneficial to understand where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses lie. And in the case of tile, if this describes you, your strength could be in just focusing on, one aspect of tile, kind of becoming that specialist tiler, and really, focusing on attracting and marketing towards people who would like, and appreciate those services that you have to offer. Now, one last clip here we have. It's about a 30-second clip, and then we'll wrap this up. And of course, if you want to watch the full episode, the link is in the show notes. It's a great episode from a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and it's well worth the watch.
What return on investment did you see, or could I expect to go through that?
Well, after I'd become certified, I had people finding me on the website.
Okay.
On top of the people that were just word of mouth customers.
Okay.
Then at that time, with my involvement in the industry, I've also started doing forensic investigations. That's helped to build my business. I'm getting calls from distributors to come look at failures.
Yeah.
And then just from the tile shops are referring me out, and I'm getting calls to investigate failures.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's just another badge, a badge of accomplishment, and another avenue to find work, and to build that stand out as the expert.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what it was for Dan, is really being an expert in his field, and he was passionate. Beyond normal, I would say, what's average anyways. I don't mean to use the word normal, but beyond kind of what we would figure somebody would be passionate about. I mean, he was so passionate. He was at every industry event, that I went to. He was always there in those couple of years that I got to know him. And he always had the same big smile on his face. In fact, the artwork of today's flashback here is a mosaic done by Angie Halford Ray, and it really embodies Dan very well. And so if you haven't listened to this full episode, it's definitely worth a watch. If you've seen it a couple years ago, definitely maybe you might want to check it out again. It was during a coverings event, and we have another coverings event here in April in Orlando where this was actually my very first coverings that I had ever been to, and I'll definitely be at the coverings coming up here in April in my backyard. So that's today's Flashback Friday. I hope you found some encouragement and some value in this flashback, 10-minute flashback, and I hope you're going to have an enjoyable Friday evening and a good weekend. Tile friends, we'll talk to you next week, and I do believe we have some content coming out this Saturday that you're going to enjoy, or Saturday or Sunday, I should say, and then, of course, Monday back with the Monday motivation. Okay, tile friends, take care out there. Thank you, Jane. It's good to see you. I hope you and your family are doing well. Say hi to Lee. Talk to you all later.